What is your name and how old are you?
My name is Sharon Bautista. I am 20, I'm not 20, I'm 31.
My name is Peaceval Amajoy. I'm 22 years old. My gender identity, I would say, is a male, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
I identify as female, and my pronouns are she, her.
Do you label your sexual orientation? If so, how do you?
At the moment, I don't label my sexual orientation, but I do know that I am different and I'm not heteronormative.
I do. I am bisexual. I am Black and Mexican. I grew up with my mother, who is African American, and I spent a lot of time with my grandparents on weekends and long holidays. So I identify a good amount with a lot of Hispanic cultures and traditions.
I am African. I'm Nigerian.
Do you think your cultural background has influenced when or if you have come out to your family? So how?
I definitely think yes, just because in that culture it's not very widely accepted. So if that were the case, I would not make it their business just in order to protect myself.
I would say, the fact that I identify so heavily Black did lead to me coming out later in life because of the fact that I don't think it's a secret that Black culture isn't super accepting. It's not one of the more accepting cultures. There is a very, kind of like there's machismo in Hispanic culture. There's like this, you gotta be, like a manly man in Black culture too. It's like your toughness, you're really rated by a lot of the times. And it's a little bit more accepted for females, but that lack of tolerance translates kind of across all gender identities. And so for that reason, I wasn't really comfortable breaking those gender norms and identifying as something that wasn't just straight. Probably with my family, I feel really, really lucky to have built a support system within friends. When I came out to my family, my mom, it was straight up denial. It was, I think you're mistaken, or this is just a phase. Like, no. She didn't, reject me. It was something that happened passively, and it hurt me all the same, because knowing that she was rejecting such an integral part of me was tough. It wasn't until I was engaged and talking about starting a family that she really had to accept it if she wanted to be a part of my life. And so we had a rough patch for a while there.
Yeah, well, just concerning my identity, I definitely feel like I have felt rejected, and before, in my life and in my, journey getting here, just, from judgmental relatives, just not feeling like I belong in high school, kind of rejected in high school, and not fitting in. It made me feel a little bit isolated, and also made me feel like I was different, which is true. I think the instances whereby I feel included and accepted is just when I'm experiencing genuine love, and I know it's unconditional, and I feel that from my siblings and from my extended family and also from my friends.
This is actually on the other side of my family. My grandpa is, he's very much like, your traditional Hispanic grandpa that you would imagine. And so I wouldn't expect him to be as accepting as he was, but I came out to him when he was close to the end of his life. And so he never actually got to meet my partner, but he knew about me. And because I was bracing for the reaction that he would have, I avoided my grandparents' house. I didn't go toward them. And so, eventually he said, "You're still you, why wouldn't we love you regardless?" And it shocked the heck out of me. And, it brought me to tears at the time, because the person that I expected to accept me didn't, and the person that I was bracing for did. So it really taught me to have an open mind and be yourself regardless, because you might be surprised by the reaction that you get.
Has your family or community's response to your queerness affected how you participate in the LGBTQ community?
I gotta be honest and say no, not really. There's not a lot of overlap there, because of the friends that I've chosen happened a lot later in life. There was a lot of acceptance and tolerance, so I didn't really see there's not a lot of overlap between my family and then my LGBTQ activities, to be honest.
I would say for sure, just because since it's not something that I saw a lot or is widely accepted in my community, in my background, I just don't feel comfortable right now expressing it as much. And it's something that I can work towards, but it's a little bit slow of a process just because it's not something that I am very acquainted to, and I just feel like it'd be quick for me to be judged, and I kind of want to withhold that or delay that as much as possible, so yeah.
What do you do for work, and has the LGBTQI, being part of the community, influenced like your career?
What I do for work is I run this AMC theater specifically, and I do that through a lot of pre-planning and strategy, and as a whole for the company, AMC has these DEI councils, diversity, equity, and inclusion councils, whose end goal is really belonging for all associates. And I'm part of the LGBTQ council, and so I represent, I am one of many who represent our LGBTQ associates. What are some things specifically that we could use that would make the environment more inclusive for us? And with that, we've pushed through a lot of really good initiatives that, simple things like being able to put your pronouns on your name tag so that no one has to be misgendered. We got fertility benefits added to our health insurance just last year by really working and advocating for these things, because if you're, a lot of LGBTQ couples, not all, struggle to start a family at a reasonable cost. When me and my wife were deciding, we had to choose between having our boys or having a house, because that's just how much it is. And so it was something that was really important to us to do. There's like countless things that we've done to represent the LGBTQ community, but the fact that we've been given those opportunities on these councils is one of the largest reasons that I've stayed with AMC.
Where do you feel most comfortable being your true, authentic self?
I have not found spaces, but I am aware of the feelings that make me feel like I can be my authentic self. It's just like when I'm around genuine love and affection, I feel like the acceptance also comes with that.
It's gotta be with my wife at home. Right? That's where I'm 100% me. No mask on, no professional polite smile. It's just, I am who I am. These are my emotions at the moment, take it or leave it.
So at the moment, I'm in the process of finding a safe space for myself. So I guess what I would ask is, what did it take for you to make that jump, make that leap, and like, how much bravery is required? And I know it's better, but it's just like, I would like to know what it did take for them to get to that point where they did find a safe space.
What advice would you give to people who haven't really found that safe person or that safe place for themselves?
I really had to learn to be okay with me. And this was weirdly something that had more to do with my, ethnic background, because being Hispanic, or being Black and Mexican, and kind of looking ethnically ambiguous, I encountered being in a gray area a lot, right? Like, so I identify as Black, but then people see my light skin and say, well, are you sure? I'm Christian, but I'm gay as well. And so I have that identity that I'm very religious, and I identify with that culture a lot, but also they don't necessarily accept me in that way. And so I've been put into a lot of in-between areas where I really had to get comfortable with myself, because I didn't fit into any one box necessarily. And I think I grew up in a time where it wasn't necessarily the norm, and definitely in my neighborhood wasn't the norm. And so having to be comfortable with who you are, regardless of what anyone else says or thinks, is something that was really important to my mental health.
How did the recent election results make you feel?
Nervous.
I just feel like for the next 4 years, this political climate and just the environment of this nation is not going to be the most conducive for, loving who you want and just being able to freely express yourself. But I just think it's something that we will get through, because it's only going to be 4 years.
You really can't take a lot of things for granted. And so all it takes is someone, being in a position of power or having influence, or several people, I would say, because of the way that our government is set up, being in positions of power that don't agree with what I would consider basic human rights. And so when that happened, my wife and I decided to have kids. I am biomom, and we use my egg, we use donor sperm. She has no biological link to our children whatsoever. And so here in California, because we're married, we're able to be married. It doesn't matter that she doesn't have a biological link. She's able to be on the birth certificate. She has all parental rights. And that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. But we still went through the process of having her adopt the children. And a lot of people kind of looked at us sideways like, why are you doing that? Like, what's the point? Like, you're in California, you're good, you're safe. And then we see, abortion rights being, taken away in certain states, things that we kind of took for granted. And so if at any point, marriage rights were taken away and, our marriage license was negated, do her parental rights get negated? And so these are things that we kind of have to think about, things that we take for granted being in such a inclusive state. I think we really have to rethink because of the country in general that we live in. The best way to make yourself heard is to insert yourself in a situation. And that's not a burden that I would want to put on any one person or any one individual. And so it's really tough. It's something that I don't mind doing. Like I mentioned before, I don't have a really tall embarrassment meter whatsoever. And so I willfully insert myself into positions, to voice whatever it is that I'm feeling, knowing that I'm probably one of the better people to do it because there's not a lot you can say to me besides no. If you give me a no, okay, fine. If you give me something other than a no, excellent, this was worth our time. I would say inserting yourself in a position, making yourself known.
Just advocating and spreading awareness and just educating as much as we can, just because knowledge is power. Without the knowledge of people who are different, people who are, from various different sexual orientations, gender identities, people who are different, you don't know the value that they have. So it's just like we can start by organizing, and then we could use that organizing to start educating people, because education is really what's gonna get there to be a change in society.
In the LGBTQ community, in the Black community, people of color, trans people, we're all just people at the end of the day. You might have meaningful conversations with, anyone in these communities and realize, wow, like, why do I care if they use this restroom? Why do I care if they're able to be married? Like, things like that. I think really just inserting yourself there, because the less you know about something, the easier it is for you to be influenced by outside voices of things you know nothing about. Take the time to educate yourself, to insert yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable. Those are the only ways that you're going to learn. You may, for the rest of your life, feel uncomfortable in those situations, but until you go in and see for yourself what something is or isn't, you're never really gonna make the best, most accurate judgment if you're just listening to others.
What message would you want to share with people who either haven't listened at all to or don't care to listen to marginalized communities?
Oh, that's a deep one. I feel like a diverse worldview brings about a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction and deep connections with people. And I feel like if you don't want to listen to marginalized communities or, learn about marginalized communities, you're robbing yourself of that.
Do what makes you feel safest right now. Maybe you feel that it is your responsibility to be yourself unapologetically. If you want to be out and you want to fight for yourself and fight for everyone else, I applaud anyone and everyone who, joins us in the streets. But if that's not who you are, that's also okay. You have a right to your own safety. Do your best to support those who are going to fight.
Have hope, because with life comes hope, and holding on to hope is only going to help you. And that's the benefit of being alive, is being able to have hope. So
I think an important part when we're talking about the LGBTQ community, a lot of the times that gets overlooked is the intersectionality that happens in our community, because of the fact that, you are LGBTQ, but you're also a lot of the times AAPI, or you're also Black, you're also a woman. And the way that those identities intersect create really unique experiences for everyone. And so I would say a lot of the times when you are considering this, with anyone in particular, but a lot of the times in the LGBTQ community, when you're interacting with someone, they're not just gay, or they're not just bi, they're not just, asexual. That's not the only thing, or their main piece of representation a lot of the times. We're all individuals and we're all unique, but I think I see that more and more in the LGBTQ community. Goodness gracious, I can't say those acronyms now. Alrighty, I'll stop blabbing now. I could go on and on.
Perfect.
That was awesome.